And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Benched with Bubba, episode 415. Gonna talk some late round relievers. We're not talking like 26th round relievers. We're talking late round relievers for your draft champions drafts. For those that are in those 50 round drafts, so you know you got to dig deep, but they'll help you win some leagues because there's so many people, and we'll talk about that. They get saves each year. So you can check me out on Twitter at BDentric, and my guest for like the second time on Benched with Bubba. You can find his great work over at RotoWire.com. He handles all the bullpen charts, continually updating that, and it's pretty awesome stuff he's got going on over there. You can find him on Twitter at Ryan Rufe, RUFE. Ryan, how we doing, man?
Doing good. I thought I got elevated to co-host for a minute. I'm kicking Toby out or something.
You almost got it. It's Tuesday, so my brain was just like, I got my co-host here. You know,
well, it's early for you, so you get a pass. That's fine.
I appreciate it. It is early. I have a half a cup of coffee in, so it is early. But I like doing this. We're gonna bang it out, like I kind of hinted at. We're gonna go over each team and go over relievers. But before we do that, let everybody know what you have going on at RotoWire and where they can find it, all the good stuff.
Yeah, RotoWire.com. Right now, I'm working on some player outlooks for next season, mostly focusing on relievers. So just hammered out about 50 of those. So I'm excited for those right now, and really excited for our new changes to the RotoWire closers page. We did a lot of kind of upgrades just to make the page a little bit cleaner, a little bit more information on the page, and just kind of streamline some of the information that is available to the subscribers. So highly recommend you check that out. Obviously, we weren't planning on, this wasn't really something planned. It was just something I kind of brought up to, Clay and James and the MLB team at RotoWire. And it was just like, hey, what do you guys think about, changing the format of the page a little bit? There's certain information I dig into when I'm looking at closers. I really look at kind of like their most recent performance to, have they pitched 3 out of the last four games, things like that. Can we display that on the page? And I was clicking around a little bit through the site just to get some information. So, this presents a uniform look for closers, a lot of relevant stats. You can just, sort real easily in terms of save leaders, ERA, swinging strike percentage, ground ball percentage, things like that, just right at your fingertips. So I'm really excited about that. And it's just a little bit cleaner look. So
yeah, no, it's awesome what you guys continue to do over there, what you do on this chart, because I know we talked about it last time. It's just insane how much is constantly changing in the landscape of relievers. And I think you probably know the number much better than I. It was some astronomical number of like how many people got saves last year and were like relevant as closers. That's kind of why this is kind of a fun podcast for our deeper league knowledge. But can you kind of just elaborate to the listeners how like crazy it was in the closing landscape?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It really aligned with 2019's kind of uptick in more relievers getting saves. 2019 there were 199 pitchers who recorded at least one save, and last year there was 198 relievers, unique relievers. If we're not double counting the guys like Hansel Robles who switched teams and got saves for both teams, but if we do that, we're at 205 pitchers who have recorded at least one save. So it's really just more teams are just going to committees or being more flexible with their high leverage relievers. And, however it works out for the 9th, that's how it falls. So, yeah, we're really seeing a lot more relievers get saves, and I expect that trend to continue.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it really does continue. And obviously, we know some teams do it more so than others, but pretty much every team, you tweeted out an awesome tweet. It was, I think, like 7 closers or something got like the majority of their team. Everybody else was like so much spread out and stuff. And even Kenley Jansen was like a questionable one because, all these guys got so many, but in the end, he was the guy. Like we can admit that he was the guy, but there were so many, and Chapman as well. There were so many just wild scenarios last year. So finding these late relievers can be good, and some will go before round 27. I was like being sarcastic. Some of these like elite kind of closer twos on teams are going to go early, but people know what I'm talking about when we kind of get into this whole gamut, and that's why we'll go team by team. So we'll still highlight those guys, but we'll give you some guys you might be able to target later in your draft potentially as well. Before we go into that, I know you are in a draft champions. Did you finish it yet, or are you still in that one?
Yeah, we finished it.
Okay.
I'm wrapping up an NFBC 52, which is similar, but instead of 15 teams, it's a 12-team league. So
yeah, I love those NFBC 50s just because it's still like what I love doing the early drafts is that's why I usually don't dig into like the DCs and stuff till later. Is it's all about getting the feel for the player pool. So the $50 price point works out well. Yes, it's 12 teams, not 15. So it does change things a bit, but it still kind of gets the juices flowing, gets the mind working in the right way. What have you noticed in like these early drafts when it comes to the closing market, relieving market out there?
Yeah, certainly the elite relievers are getting pushed up. Saw Liam Hendriks get drafted as soon as pick 15 or 16, right there at the 1-2 turn, which is a pretty big push. And is it unreasonable? No. I mean, saves are at a premium. I mean, they're one of the categories, and Hendriks really does provide, 5 categories, performance. He had 8 wins last year in addition to his 30-some saves and elite ratios and high strikeout totals. So is it what I would do? No. I'm going to still try to get a secure closer if I can, but I'll probably target one in the round 5-6 range with the Diaz and Clase Presley types. It's really interesting, especially with these early drafts. I've seen Blake Trinan go super high right now because Jansen's unsigned, and if he doesn't sign with the Dodgers, Trinan's probably the guy, right? So I've seen him go super early. It's just kind of crazy how things are shaking out right now. And it's right now it's a lot of risk reward, right? Like Gallegos is going super early. Love him as a pitcher. I think he could be like awesome as a closer, but what if they sign Melanson or somebody? You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of risk reward right now. So getting those guys who have been established for a while, Chapman, Jansen, Presley, those are guys I'm really targeting right now. I think they're all really great values right now.
A couple things there. That is part of the perks of doing these early drafts is you can find value or get kind of guys at different times and everything. And that's also the downfalls. It could backfire, or that was the joke I made in a lot of the early drafts I did last year. I got at least one guy on every team that didn't even sign, it was insane. I just had an empty roster spot for the entire season. But that's kind of the risks you take on these early drafts. And initially when I saw the Liam Hendriks, I'm like, that's crazy. Like you said, his stats are great. It's not what I would do because my mind, I guess, isn't just built to do that. And I'd rather take my chances elsewhere. But especially in like a draft champions where you have no waiver wire to make changes and there's an overall championship, you need to lock in saves. Like it's that simple. Yeah. So it definitely changes kind of your approach on things. We'll see like in a redraft format with waivers and everything, how that or fab budget, see how that would play out. Maybe he goes a couple rounds later or something. We'll see. But I could see the appeal to, you're getting 40 plus saves right there, unless barring an injury, which you can't predict. So you're getting like really, really good stuff there, which makes a ton of sense in that regard. And in the draft champions, I started the one in first pitch Arizona. We had the first 30 rounds, I think 27 rounds or something. And closers were just going so fast. This podcast is built for me. Let's put it that way, because I'm going to have to find a lot of late targets to kind of make things happen, because my brain wasn't ready to take guys as early as they were going. I just couldn't do it. Right. It's crazy.
Yeah, but, and to touch on one thing you covered there, the format, being a DC, you don't get to pick anyone up, right? That's going to change my approach as compared to a fab league. In a fab league, I'm going to probably wait on saves and play the waiver wire, just covering bullpens for RotoWire. I'm more deeply into that than probably the average player, so I'm going to be more comfortable speculating on guys for $1 or $2, ahead of, I noticed somebody who's struggling or beginning to struggle, I'm gonna speculate on probably the next man up.
Yeah, no,
Whereas
that's
the
a great
DC, you
point.
got to lock in those saves. So
No, that's a great point because that's something that I last year, because every Tuesday night Toby and I would recap the Fab for the week, and I'd be like, how do you spend this much money on a guy that's going to get speculative closes? It's crazy. But the thing is sure, okay, you can find that diamond. Like a couple years ago, I keep telling the story. I got Liam Hendricks, and that worked out great. That was phenomenal with the A's. Does that happen very often? No. But the way saves are changing so much, as you mentioned, the 198 different closers and everything, or individual saves people, you're still getting them later in the year. And we saw it. And they're cheaper as the year goes on. Right. So if you don't break the bank early per se, but you start like say mid-season targeting saves, you can still get a boatload of saves for a lot cheaper. So you can play it for sure. And like Ryan said, if you follow his charts and others like awesome work out there, you can be ahead of the curve and get a couple like speculative bids in there and try to get guys. And you're not banging on the injury where everyone's going to pay $1 million for someone. You're going to speculate on the guy losing his job, which happens a lot on these teams in baseball these days. So definitely an option as well.
Yeah, but another observation from at least the DC I was in this 50 that I'm wrapping up is there are a lot of save sources after round 30. There's even a lot after round 40. Now, are they going to get you 10, 15 saves? Probably not. But I mean, there's still sources there that you can plug in and get a handful of saves. That can help you, try to get to that overall. So,
yeah, and the beauty of these DCs and everything, it's same with the Fab Leagues, but it's more so in the DCs because you're just locked into that roster. There's weeks you can be like, you know what, I'm just going to start one starting pitcher. I'm going to start 8 of these guys and try to rack up saves in 1 week because it's just the matchups are different, or you're not able to like pick up a 2-pitch streamer off the wire and like, I don't want to use this guy this week because of the matchup. So I'm going to go use another guy that could give me a save or two and see how that goes. So having that kind of depth with guys that might not get a bunch of saves, but have potential for saves could pay off as well. So it's definitely different angles.
And one thing to remember is when you dive into these DCs or 50s or whatever, just because a guy spent time in the closer role in 2021 and got saves doesn't mean they're primed for the closer role in 2022. So guys like Yimi Garcia or Richard Rodriguez, Andrew Chafin, these guys were, great save sources last year. But, I'm seeing some of these guys go like way earlier than some better relievers, higher strikeout upside. And I don't know, that's not, maybe they fall into saves again. They prove they can obviously pitch in high leverage, but, are they favorable to land a closing job? Probably not. So just something to remember, just when you're trying to decide between some different relievers for saves, don't just take Yimi Garcia because he got 15 saves last year. Look a little bit deeper. Notice that when he went to the Astros, he was in kind of a middle relief role. And that's probably, on a good team, that's where that's what his role is going to be. So,
yeah, no, he got those saves because the Marlins. That's what we got to say. So, yeah, for sure. When you're looking, before we get into the teams here, you mentioned something like the strikeouts and everything. When you're looking at these later targets, what helps you differentiate between guys you, besides obviously the work you've done to see where their roles are potentially and whatnot? Like you mentioned Chafin. I know a lot of people love Chafin. You say where he's going in drafts, they love Chafin. We still don't know if he's going to be the closer, but you have guys that might have elite strikeout stuff that could fall into a role because we've seen that time and time again throughout a season when the roles change and stuff. These are the guys that more often than not fall into it. How do you go about looking for those later round guys?
Yeah, I'm like if I'm in round 45, I'm probably going to target someone with a higher, help me in ratios and strikeouts if they're not giving me saves. So, just top of my head, like Mike Mayers, he's got like at least a 10 K per 9, right? I'm going to target him over someone like Cody Hoyer, who doesn't strike out as many guys. Maybe his path to saves is maybe a little bit better than Mayers, but I don't know. I just there's other contributions there for Mayers that, are a little bit more advantageous than Hoyer, who could have a 4 ERA and, kind of not get me many strikeouts. So That's kind of a differentiator to look at. I look at the kind of savant pages, see if I'm seeing red, that's obviously a plus. But yeah, I'm looking for more overall help because I was actually one of my draft champions leagues last year. I didn't draft enough pitchers, so I was starting late in the year. Blake Trinan, Corey Knebel, Bruce Dark-Radall. I was starting all those guys because I literally had no healthy pitchers. So I want guys who are gonna, help boost me in the categories I need, not just saves.
That's one of the hardest parts about the DCs and these like NFBC 50s and stuff is just, and when injuries happen, and last year they happened at a ridiculous rate, you were just left holding the bag. I've told the story. I had drafted 3 first basemen in the entire month of September, and one league I had 0 first basemen on my roster. So it was just like nothing you can do about it. It's just like this is the way it goes. But you mentioned not having enough starting pitchers, and I was going to ask you, in a perfect world, in an ideal world, the more you've done these, you probably kind of got a little bit of a program you're trying to uphold for the most part. How many like relief pitchers are you trying to finish a draft with, or is it just kind of overall pitchers?
Yeah, I think it depends on like the security of my top closers. If I get a Hendricks and a Hader, I'm probably not gonna invest as much.
True.
On relievers later on. I'm gonna try to get those innings, but generally I land somewhere in the like 6 to 7 range for a 50 round DC. I've been trying to target more pitchers this year. Last year I was in kind of the 21 to 22 range for pitchers, and like I said, that really just kind of bit me. So I've been trying to be in the 23, 24 range, and with 6 or 7 of those as relievers and safe specs. So it's generally where I land. I don't think there's like I said, it depends on the security of my first couple closers. Like, if I have some risky guys, I'll probably, spend that 7th or 8th slot on a spec closer late.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense to me. Let's talk about some teams. Let's talk about all the teams, and we'll go through them. And some will be a lot easier than others, but there'll always be some fun ones to chat with. And we'll just go alphabetically like your chart suggests, and we'll start with the Arizona Diamondbacks. And I love also what you have on here is just the first thing right here on the main chart, the total saves for a team. The D-backs had 22 saves last year, so it kind of makes you think, were they really worth the investing money in? Now that could change every year, don't get me wrong, but it just goes to show you that like certain teams are going to get you much more chances than others. But who do you see coming out in this, or who's worth taking a chance on? Because you have Wendelken is speculated as the closer, and we all know that could change on a moment's notice.
Yeah, and those 22 saves were split between 8 relievers. So
man,
I think the leader had like 4 or something, or 5. Maybe it might have been Soria, actually. I think it was Soria before he got traded. But yeah, I'm looking at 2 guys here in this bullpen, both JBs. You mentioned Wendelken. His ADP is really kind of going around 39 when his highest pick around 27, pick 402. I don't know. He was DFA'd by Oakland last year. It was strange, considering he's a decent reliever. They're a contending team. Just to get rid of like bullpen depth like that, it was just kind of a weird move. I don't know if it was like an injury, concern or what. But Arizona came in, claimed him mid-August. Pitched a career high, 43 and 2/3 innings. Still pretty young. Doesn't give up many homers. I think he's kind of the favorite for the job just due to the lack of other options right now. Got a couple saves last year, so I think he's the guy to target. And like I said, super late. If he's the guy, if he's the closer, that's 15, 20 saves in round 39. That's a good gamble worth taking, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, he's a surprising one to me because going into last season with the A's situation kind of in flux, people thought he was kind of going to be a guy to get saves with the A's. And then he just, like you said, got DFA'd, and it was a weird year for him. But maybe this is the year for him for sure.
Yeah, and the other guy, former first-round pick, JV Bukoskis, is one of the guys that came over to Arizona in the Zach Greinke deal. He got demoted last year for inconsistency reasons. It was a bit of a health risk too. Just kind of one of those max velocity guys, just throws super hard. Did get a save when he was demoted for AAA Reno, so just someone to keep an eye on. Not earlier than your 48th round pick or something like that, but the upside is there if you're looking for it.
Yeah, no, he was a name that a lot of people liked last year, but the inconsistencies were rough. So that'd be definitely a good one to circle later on. Let's go to the World Series champion Braves here. It seems like Will Smith's going to be the guy, but is there anyone else to speculate on there in Atlanta?
The night shift. You gotta, right? Like, it's a pretty cool nickname for like that quartet of elite relievers there. I think, Atlanta was one of those teams that didn't really use many relievers for saves. I think they only had 4 relievers log saves, and it was Smith who logged 90% of them, and the other 3 had 1 apiece. So if you're going to look at anyone, you can probably look at Luke Jackson, past round 45. He's closed before. He had 31 holds last year, which was second best in the majors. ERA estimators suggest he was a little bit lucky last year, but I don't know. He's done it before. He's obviously one of their highest leverage relievers. So if something happens to Smith, he's injured, whatnot, he would be one that I would look to back Smith up with if I drafted him.
I like it.
Other than him, Matt Sek had a really nice year. He was a little inconsistent. Started the year real well, then kind of lost his control a little bit, but it's kind of fun just seeing him succeed in the playoffs, and then just his story. He's got a great nickname too, Nutsack.
Yeah, and the Nutsack nickname, his just performance in the postseason was amazing, and then to watch the officers try to arrest him during the parade was one of the funnier things I've ever seen. I was like,
that was fantastic.
It was like, officer, I know he had a great postseason, but who do you think's wearing a Matzik jersey walking up and down the street right now? Like, really? Who? And like, come on. If anybody's got a jersey, it's probably Acuna or Freeman or something else. Let's be realistic about this for like 2 seconds. But,
yeah, that was hilarious.
It was one of the better videos out there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to Baltimore, to the Orioles, where it's every year it seems to be a head scratcher on what are we doing. One of the places we like to stream closers at because they're always streaming. But is there anybody worth targeting in this bullpen?
Yeah, a couple guys actually going after round 30. Cole Solcer and Tyler Wells. Solcer ADP around round 33. He's led the Orioles in saves for 2 straight years. Granted, they were both single digits in both those years. He had 8 last year. Really nice year for him. He cut his walk rate in half, career high 63 in the 3rd innings. So, and then Tyler Wells, Rule 5 pick from the Twins, had Tommy John 2019, was 29% K rate, 5.5% walk rate, 4 saves, a lot of upside there. I think thing with the Orioles is, they had one of the lowest save totals like the Diamondbacks did. They only had 26 as a team. And Brandon Hyde likes to use a committee. This is why these guys are going late in DCs, is because you can't really rely on 10 saves from anyone. But these are 2 guys. They're the favorites for saves in Baltimore's arm barn. So, after round 30, I think these guys are nice picks.
Yeah, it's always you never know what's going to happen there. And like, it's interesting. You try to not spend too much on them, but they get saves. And Solcer's like shown such promise at times that I'd really like to see. And Wells, I think he got a save or 2 and then got hurt last year. So we'll see.
Yeah, he got 4 saves last year, and then injury mid-September, I think, cut his season short. But
yeah, there was some hype on him towards the end for sure. Let's go to Boston, where Matt Barnes was on the outs towards the end of last year. We saw Whitlock. We saw a lot of saw Robles, and he's not around anymore. There was all kinds of stuff going on in Boston. So what should we expect potentially as we draft for 2022?
Yeah, with kind of rumors of Whitlock going to the rotation, how just having 2 pitches, probably going to remain in kind of this long relief role. Ottavino's a free agent. Robles is a free agent. So there's not many guys left. Matt Barnes is the guy right now. So unless they sign or trade for somebody, I think Barnes is the favorite to open 2022 in the role. They signed him to an extension in the middle of last year. He had like a dominant first half. He was so good. So he could be like a huge value if he reverts back to that pre-All-Star break form. His ADP right now is round 19, but he went as low as pick 466, which is round 32. Like that could just be an immense value if they don't sign anyone to be their closer. So it'll be interesting to see if he can get back to that dominant form that he had at the beginning of last year, because he was really good.
So we're definitely going to have to keep an eye on who they sign. That's what it comes down to. Because
I would imagine they're going to sign a trade for someone, but
yeah, for sure. Because just even looking on the right side of the screen here, the closers and waiting ranks, I'm not going to give those out to everybody, but there's about 7 or 8 guys that are unsigned right now. So that if just one of those guys sneaks into Boston, then that can make things a little interesting potentially. So I guess
another guy who's been undrafted through at least the 4 DCs that were finished was Hirokazu Sawamura. He had 75 saves in Japan before he came over to the States. Has a nice ground ball rate last year in his rookie season here, but walks and home runs were an issue. So really needs to address those before he kind of ascends that high leverage ladder. But there's another high leverage option there if they're a little thin on the depth side.
All right, let's go to Wrigley Field. The Chicago Cubs were everyone was getting traded last year, and that could happen again this year if you're having a good season. So there could be a lot of moving pieces in this bullpen. How do you see this one flushing out for now? Because I know we all wanted Rowan Wick last year when trades happened. Didn't work out quite as planned.
Yeah, they really kind of went full committee after the Kimbrel trade. It was really Kimbrel, and then I think like 9 or 10 more guys got saves the rest of the season in the second half. So I still think Wick's the favorite just because of his strikeout rate. It was near 30%. He led the team with 5 saves after the Kimbrel trade. He just got blown up a little bit. His 14% walk rate was too high. Hoyer got a couple saves. So Wick's going around round 30, which could be a great value. But, Cubs want to spend. I would imagine they're going to be, players for a closer or high-end reliever. Hoyer's ADP is around round 40. He got a couple saves after the trade. He could get, as the roster stands today, he's one of their highest leverage guys. Could step into saves. So, but I would imagine they're gonna, there's a lot of moves to make there. Considering, a lot of guys left via trade and free agents. So,
yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out because they say they're going to spend now. I have a weird feeling there's some more cast-offs coming their way. So we're going to see how this one plays out. Cincinnati Reds, they say they're selling, so buckle up. But Luca Sims, we saw Garrett last year. We saw Lorenzen at times last year. We saw
Emery.
Yeah, there's so many of them. There's so many of them last year. And where do we stand right now?
So believe it or not, Cincinnati's this is the most exciting team for me to target for late relievers in draft champions leagues. And I meant to ask you, I was going to ask you before we started recording, like if you could guess what team it was. But
it makes sense. It makes sense if you're speculating because they should still win baseball games unless they completely blow it up. And they have so many talented relievers. It's interesting.
Yeah, I love this. These options here. So Kyle Bodie, he's no longer with the Reds, but his work with the young arms in that system has me really excited for the guys who recently made their debut or are close. And Kyle's is funny because he was a Northeast Ohio guy. We used to play Magic all the time at the local card shop. So it's cool just to like kind of see like a guy who I knew back then was destined for big things, and now he's got Driveline, and just it's really cool to see. But nice. I really like this pen. Luca Sims was fantastic last year. I think he kind of got really unlucky with his injury. He was gaining some momentum in the role. He had like 5 saves in a really short span, and then he got injured. But career high 14.5 K per nine. He had 7 saves, 9 holds, 4.40 ERA, but the estimators say that he had a 2.99 FIP and a 2.55 xERA. So I think he's the favorite for me right now. He's his ADP is around round 25. Definitely somebody I would look into, but a lot of other options you can get much later. I'll touch on a few guys who, may actually be rotation targets as opposed to relievers, but Hunter Green, round 26 ADP, Nick Lodolo, round 33. Those are obviously the hyped prospects for the rotation, especially if they trade Luis Castillo or Sonny Gray. But I can't imagine they'll get 180 innings. So those might be guys who eventually spend some time in the bullpen or maybe high leverage work if they're trying to limit their workload.
Nice.
Another guy I really like, Reaver Sen Martin. I don't know how you say it, but I was talking with Rob DiPietro the other day. I don't know what it is about this guy. He had a solid debut last year. Both his starts were against the Pirates, though, so can't take too much stock in that. But
yeah, I remember that one now.
Yeah, he could step into a solid 120, 140 innings in the rotation. He's one of the 3 guys competing for two open spots right now. Round 36 ADP, I'm targeting him there. Really like him a lot. And 2 other guys who, for saves in particular, to look at are Art Warren and Dory Moretta. Warren, round 45 ADP, Moretta, round 50. Warren had 27 career saves in the minors. He made his debut last year. 34 to 8 K to walk in 21 innings, with great ratios. So really exciting. He could certainly step into the saves picture. And he already had a really nice debut. So Moretta also made his big league debut towards the end of last year. He had 18 career saves in the minors, including 8 for AAA Louisville last year. So doesn't walk many guys. I really think these guys could, for as bad as Cincinnati's bullpen was last year, I think these guys could really turn things around in a hurry.
Nice. I'm looking forward to that because, I like to root for the Reds just because I think they're good, and I just hate how the ownership continues to blow it up, like ruining these good teams. But you get these young arms in there, and it's always exciting because it allows them to keep trading guys, which stinks, but it allows them to stay competitive, which is also good as well, which helps us in fantasy as well. So I'm going to definitely have Warren and Marietta circled on my to-do list later on to kind of dig in on those as well, because that sounds very, very intriguing. Because as much as I like Luca Sims, I was in on him last year. If they're selling, I could see him be going to at some point in time if he does stay healthy. So everyone's available pretty much unless your name is Joey Votto right now. Maybe Jonathan India. Maybe I'll say Jonathan India since he's the rookie of the year. So we'll leave that one there.
Yeah, and I just actually saw a tweet. I think it was somebody shared it. I think it was Greg Jewett. Shout out to him for all his awesome work at Reliever Recon. Subscribe on Patreon, $3 a month.
There you go.
It's definitely worth it. I'm a subscriber.
Yep.
He's awesome. His team does great work. But I think he just shared his tweet about Warren. I can't remember the context of the tweet because it was right before that we started recording. But he was on some sort of pitching leaderboard with, all the elite guys like Hader and Hendricks and Cole. And I'll have to go find that. But Warren's pretty exciting. Someone I'm really excited about.
Yeah, looking forward to that. But what Ryan did say about Greg and the reliever recon, definitely check that out. As you guys, Greg's been on the show many times. We love what Greg does. So worth every penny. The coffees and closers, waking up to that, worth it in itself. So, Cleveland Indians. This is a good one because Emmanuel Clase kind of stepped in and just ran with it last year after everyone wanted Karinchak. It just didn't work out so well. Are we just sticking with Clase and rolling, or are we going to take some chances on some other Cleveland relievers? The Guardians, I should say.
Guardians, yeah.
Yes, it's official now. I even love I think the Athletic did it. It was baseball team, roller team, shake hands, both the Guardians now.
Yeah, both the Guardians, yeah.
Beautiful.
Clase is, I think, pretty established himself as the guy. Karinchak just super inconsistent. That sticky ban last year really crushed him. he struggled so bad once that ban took place and got demoted to the minors. Really 13.6% walk rate. That just doesn't play in the closer role. So I think Class A is one of the most secure closers you can draft. A couple other guys though who have gone undrafted thus far in DCs, aside from Karinchak, who's going in around round 23. Nick Sandlin and Anthony Gose. Gose is just a fun story. He was a former outfielder. I remember drafting him for steals in DCs a long time ago. Throws gas, 100 miles an hour, lefty.
Crazy.
I mean, he probably has a lot of work to do to really kind of ascend the high leverage ladder in Cleveland. But just imagine like the Guardians throwing Gose left-handed 100 miles an hour in the 8th and Clase 100 miles an hour in the 9th.
That's a heck of a 1-2 punch, to say the least.
Yeah, he had a pretty nice debut last year, only 6 2/3 innings, but 92 K to walk, 135 ERA, 060 WHIP. So it was a really nice debut for him. It's just fun story. Definitely someone to monitor. I don't, I'm not. If anything, it's around 50 pick. But Nick Sandlin was good too. He saved 7 games in the minors. He had a really promising rookie debut, ERA under 3, 34% strikeout rate. So one thing with him is just he's got to cut his walks, 12% walk rate. So if he does that, then I'm sure he'll probably be the setup man for Class A.
Yeah, the Ghost stuff is amazing. Like you said, I remember him playing outfield for the Tigers and just this kind of median guy that you wanted for steals, and now he's out there just pumping heat.
Yeah,
and
really
it's crazy to watch it happen because we've seen guys try to do little transitions either from pitcher to hitter to pitcher, and it doesn't work out very often. So to see him actually do it and make it work has been pretty fun to see.
Yeah, Rick and Keel was the other guy, I think.
And Keel for sure. That one was a wild one because he just couldn't pitch anymore. Just lost all control. The yips to it. Like, you're a golf guy now. Yips to a T. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But, it was fun to watch. Colorado Rockies. This is a bullpen that it stinks to invest in because it's Coors, but saves are saves. And it's the world we live in. So where are we going here? Because, I took a late shot on an Estevez, and I've already been told that was foolish, and it makes sense. But where are you going with this bullpen?
No, I think Estevez makes sense. Bard, he should be the favorite to open that 2022 in the role. If we're just talking late round guys, take your pick. Any of them. Nobody wants to draft a Colorado reliever. One guy I actually tweeted about recently was Lucas Gilbreth. Hasn't been drafted yet in the draft champions leagues, but just really, really solid after the All-Star break. He 28 innings, 0.96 ERA, 107 WHIP, 30 strikeouts, 3 wins and a save. So just really promising results. I just love finding random stats like that. Over this sample, this guy was just crazy good, and oftentimes that could lead to how you identify breakouts, right?
Yep.
So somebody to monitor. He's the only lefty in Colorado's pen, which may limit his save opportunities right now. But round 48 to 50 dart throw. If you have Estevez, back him up with Gilbreth. And
I like it because Colorado, we see the change in the guard there all the time, every season. Yeah. So it's definitely, and if Estevez is any good, he'll get traded. So these are all options in Colorado. Let's go to the White Sox, where King Hendricks resides, and don't see much change in there, barring an unforeseen injury. Craig Kimbrell, we kind of expect to be traded. So what are you doing with this bullpen?
Yeah, it's Hendricks, obviously the guy. One guy I'm really targeting is Garrett Crochet, ADP 536, which is round 36. His role is still to be determined, could move to the rotation. If he does that, he could open 2022 in the minors, but with Kopech likely to the rotation, Kimbrell traded, could really just see him stepping into a more prominent high leverage role in the 7th or 8th inning ahead of Hendricks. So can go multiple innings too. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting decision for them because, he obviously proved he can excel as a reliever, and, they really kind of babied his innings last year. So are they really going to throw him out there for 140 innings as a starter this year? I don't know. I think it makes sense for him to just kind of come back to the pen. But if he moves to the rotation, that's a nice value for a round 36 pick. Can get a lot of innings if he does move to the rotation.
Yeah, he's regardless of where he lands, I guess role wise, I think he's going to help you regardless. It's kind of what works there because his stuff is great. And it was like a year, less than 2 years ago, maybe even last year, we were all speculating on Crochet having a big role in that bullpen to begin with. So that makes a lot of sense. If these moving pieces continue to move, he should slide into a 7th, 8th inning type role with potential to, if God forbid something happens to Liam Hendricks, take over there. So I like that a lot. Speaking of Craig Kimbrell, I have to at least ask you, what are you doing with him in drafts? Because you'd imagine wherever he's traded is a team that needs a high-end reliever, but not always the case.
Yeah, it was interesting. I'm sure everybody saw the stat where as a closer in the 9th inning, he had a great ERA, but in the 8th inning, he had like a 5 ERA or something like that. His ADP right now is 142. So I don't know. He could be a great value at that pick. I mean, obviously it depends on where he goes. Be interesting if he went back to the Red Sox, kind of where he started his career, or that was Braves or Reds. I can't remember. He was with both of them. So, but yeah, it's I don't know. He's kind of the first closer off the board after like the top 10, 11 guys are drafted in DCs. It's like really kind of a gap between Romano and Will Smith, and then there's kind of a 50 pick gap, and then Kimbrell starts off like kind of the next tier of closers. So could be a great value if he lands the closer role somewhere.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Again, drafted early, you can find a value because if he gets a great spot, he's going to move up quite a bit. So, yeah, definitely could be quite the value, as you said. Let's go to the Detroit Tigers here. We got they had a lot of pieces last year. Soto's got electric stuff, sometimes a little walk issue. Fulmer looked really good if he could stay healthy. There were a bunch of moving pieces, but they're getting better, which could lead to more saves. They still got 42 saves last year, which is definitely respectable in the saves world. It just got spread out everywhere.
Yeah, they really started with the committee, and then Soto kind of just, established himself in the role. And AJ Hinch has already come out and said, he's the closer. He's not going to be the full time guy. We'll still use him in high leverage scenarios, in the 6th, 7th, or 8th too. But all the more reason to target Michael Fulmer. Right now, his ADP is kind of in round 19, which I don't know, little early for me, just because I don't think he'll. I really like Soto. I don't think he's probably going to give up the job unless he's just terrible. Who knows? Coming off injury, right? Like he had I think an injury to his throwing hand or his finger or something like that. So, I don't know. Fulmer performed much better as a reliever than as a starter. So, I would imagine, they're going to keep him in the bullpen. It just makes a lot more sense. 2.53 ERA as a reliever compared to 4.97 as a starter. So,
and he just can't stay healthy as a starter right now.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, a return to the pen makes sense. And, 10 saves, 12 saves, just kind of backing up Soto. Like you said, I think he'll get his. So.
Okay. Let's go to the Houston Astros here. Ryan Presley seems to be the guy, and he seems to kind of always be that underappreciated, should be close to the more elite tier than kind of mid-pack tier closers, and he just kind of sits there in the wings, and you mentioned him like, I'll take a Class A Presley to start with, and it's because he's that good. Who else are you looking at in Houston?
Right now, nobody, just because Kendall Graveman, Yimi Garcia, Brooks Raley are all free agents. They really have to overhaul that bullpen and just get some depth. So I'm not targeting anyone else. I just remember Josh James used to be kind of that guy you'd target just for the strikeout upside and, the bulk relief, just innings. But, he was hurt last year. I'm not sure you can rely on him. Enoli Paredes has some crazy strikeout upside, but walked like 18 batters per 9 last year in his limited samples. So
that ain't going to cut it.
That's not going to cut it. So, I mean, if he really cuts his walk rate, I mean, he could be a ridiculous high leverage arm for them, but he has yet to show he can do that. So Yeah, right now it's just Presley in this pen that I'm targeting.
All right, let's head to Kansas City, a team that loved using committees last year, and honestly, I would be shocked if that didn't change this year. So, what are we looking at in Kansas City?
Yeah, 8 relievers had a save last year for the Royals. They really kind of used that committee for the first 2-3 months of the season before Barlow gained that momentum and really started kind of being the primary closer. Yeah, I see kind of a return to a committee here. Barlow, I mean, he's always been good, but like before this year, he was kind of had the 4 ERAs, ERAs in the 4s. So I don't know if he'll revert back to that. Right now, he's going in round 12, and I'm not paying that for Barlow. As good as he was last year, I think the threat of a committee is just too risky in Kansas City. Having said that, Greg Holland's a free agent. Wade Davis is gone. Jesse Hahn's a free agent. Urban Santana's a free agent. So there really should be similar to Houston, a relief overhaul to complement Barlow, Staumont, Jake Brentz, Dylan Coleman. Those are the guys that are kind of be all in the mix for saves, I think. Staumont kind of mid-20s ADP right now. Ran hot and cold last year. Price is probably still a little bit too early for me. But he really had a nice end of last season. Over the final 3 months, he had a 1.93 ERA. So it's just right before that, he had a 5.09 ERA over 2 months. So it's just, establishing that consistency. Dylan Coleman, around 47 ADP, had 12 career saves in the minors. He had nice rookie debut, strikeout upside. Could see them going to him if they don't really sign anyone flashy. I could see him being in the mix for a handful of saves. And Jake Brentz, going undrafted right now. He had 13 career saves in the minors. Had a couple for Kansas City last year. He's the team's top lefty. So out of anyone aside from Staumont, if I'm targeting late, it might be Brentz.
Yeah, worse, he should get the high leverage spots, which could lead to maybe a win here and there, which could be good too. So I like that call with Brentz. It's one thing people need to also remember. It's like, okay, I'm taking these chances late, hoping for saves, but it also means they're probably going to be in the late innings, which could lead to wins and other ratio games. So
yeah, it's so big. And it's so tough to project right now, right? It's so early. Yeah. But one thing I'm looking at is who's free agents, right? Okay, so Kansas City and Houston, perfect examples. A ton of guys are free agents that were relievers for them last year. So if they don't really make too many moves in free agency, these guys will ascend that high leverage ladder and fall into saves, especially in committees like Kansas City.
No, I like that quite a bit. Let's go to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, who just signed a starting pitcher, has thrown 2 innings in the last 2 years to $21 million. We won't talk about that today, but that was an eye-opener to me. We will talk about their bullpen, who Rafael Iglesias is just the man. And I'm still shocked Cincinnati traded him when they did, but they did. And there's rumors that the Angels might trade Iglesias, which I don't ever see happening with they just signed Thor. So what are you doing with the rest of this bullpen?
Yeah, and I think the Angels made a qualifying offer to Iglesias, which he has to accept or decline by tomorrow, right? So
yes, exactly. Yeah,
we'll see if he's going to be a free agent soon. But beyond Iglesias, I already mentioned him, Mike Mayers. He was demoted from his high leverage role last year. He had a period where he struggled, but he really came on strong at the end of last season, finished with a 2.78 ERA after the All-Star break. K rate's around 30%, so he has all the makings of to step into the role if Iglesias is moved or gets hurt. So he's really the only one I'm targeting right now, but maybe Syndergaard,
that would make more sense than starting. I like Thor. I feel so bad when I tweet something or say something because I love Thor. I want him to be good. I really do. I was shocked by the money. and the
Yeah.
Mets get a
Oh,
pick.
yeah.
Like I literally tweeted out, the Mets didn't have to pay $18 million for him, and they got a pick in compensation. This is the most anti-Mets thing I've seen in a long time. Like
Yeah.
this is perfect. So I wish the best. I would love to see a healthy Thor with a healthy Trout and an Ohtani. That would be electric. That would be great. I think I figured it'd be like a 2 or 3 year deal where like, okay, the early years are cheap and then you can earn more money, because I don't think he's going to throw that much this year. So I was just shocked.
Seeing all these contracts kind of makes me question like my life decisions, right? Like maybe I should have just focused more on baseball, like learn to throw left-handed.
Yep.
Just a 5 ERA, I'll get me $77 million.
Yeah, well, I started thinking that when I saw Jamie Moyer pitch in our younger years. Like that guy pitched forever because he was left-handed and was quote unquote crafty. So yeah, we made some poor decisions. That's for sure.
Yeah, we did.
But we're gonna sit here and talk about relievers anyways. The Los Angeles Dodgers. I love Kenley Jansen. I do, and I'm still in the camp that thinks he's gonna come back to LA. It's just too perfect. It'd be too weird to go somewhere else, and I just don't see it happening. Could be totally wrong.
That would be weird.
I feel like he's coming back.
Yeah, I think he's a favorite to re-sign with the Dodgers. If he doesn't, I still think he's going to close no matter where he goes. He's got a 10-year track record of elite, production, in the ninth inning. So he's one of the best values, I think, right now in Draft Champions. I think ADP is around 90 something. Let me pull it. An ADP 92, which is round 7.
That's outstanding.
Believe it or not, I think him and Chapman, who has an ADP of around 89, end around 6. I mean, I would love starting my team with one of Class A, Presley, Chapman, Jadson, Will Smith. I mean, those are guys I think are locked in. So, but in the scenario where he doesn't re-sign with the Dodgers, Knable and Joe Kelly are both free agents too. So that leaves Blake Trinan, ADP 268 right now, round 18. Went as early as pick 149, which is round 10. Could be just insane value if Kenley doesn't re-sign with them. I mean, he really kind of got back to that elite form he showed with the A's in his breakout season. Just some of the sickest pitching ninja clips you'll ever see on his sinker or cutter, whatever he throws. That could end up being a really good value. And like I said, I was starting him last year on my Draft Champions team. So last year, one of my DCs, I just drafted the entire Dodgers bullpen behind Kenley Jansen.
Not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, I was like Knable, Trinan, and Gratterall.
Well, if they're going to win 100 games, you're locking in probably they had 56 saves, so you locked in pretty much every save.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, but another guy to watch, round 44 ADP, Alex Fesia. He emerged as the Dodgers' top lefty last year. 2.25 ERA, 0.98 WHIP, just over 12 Ks per 9. His 17.8 swinging strike percentage would have ranked among the leaders if he qualified. So just a lot of upside there. Does need to improve his control. He walked about 5 batters per 9 to really kind of take the next step forward. But I see him going in a lot of DCs, and he could do worse.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Let's. I hate liking the Dodgers, but that's what they do. They win games and they get saves, and it's fantasy baseball. So
yes,
this is where we live. And I've rostered Kenley Jansen probably like 5 straight seasons. So if they're gonna win, I might as well get some joy out of it. The Miami Marlins. This is always a tricky one because similar to the Orioles, like how many saves are they going to get? That's always a question. I still think they're going to be better than they look on paper, but always moving pieces there. So how are you assessing this?
Yeah, I haven't looked at Floro's contract, but I would imagine he's going to be the favorite to kind of start the year in the role, and they kind of establish him. Funny, we were just talking about Vesia because they were flipped for each other at the beginning of the last season between the Dodgers and Marlins. Floro in his second year of arbitration, so this season. So I mean, it's possible they just start him in the closer role, build up his value some more, trade him, move on to Anthony Bender. Bender's the guy I'm targeting in DC. Right now he's got around 26 ADP. He's kind of going in the Sewell, Chad Green, Low Isiga range of kind of higher end relievers in DC's. Began his career going 21 straight appearances without allowing an earned run. Had 3 wins, 3 saves last year, great ratios. Like I said, should be in the mix for saves, but not really expecting an extended run in the role just yet. Still think Floro kind of opens in the role unless they sign someone. But as it stands right now, I would go Floro, try to build up his trade value, trade him, and move on to Bender.
I like it. Hope that's something that Derek Jeter and company are listening to, or Michelle Ng, I should say, are listening to. The Milwaukee Brewers, Josh Hader's the dude. I laugh every time they say he's going to get traded, but then the Brewers, and nothing puts me past me. But I love Hader. There's nothing not to love about Hader. You going anywhere else with this bullpen?
I mean, Devin Williams got the first 3 saves of his career last season, and I think Hader was on the COVID list for a little bit, and both Williams, Suter, and Boxberger got saves in his absence. But yeah, Hader's getting pricey. I mean, if the Brewers fall out of contention at some point, I mean, there's always a risk of them moving on, and they already have an elite reliever who's, won NL reliever of the year, rookie of the year in Devin Williams. It's just, he really hurt that team punching the wall, celebrating their NL Central title win. I mean, I'm sure they could have used him for the playoffs, but
yeah, probably.
Struggled to start last season too, but he had 8 wins, 23 holds. So I think he's, really solid target. And like I said, if Milwaukee falls out of it, which, their starting pitching is just fantastic. So I don't know if that's going to be the case, but, he could easily step into that role.
All right, let's go to the Minnesota Twins here, where they've had a lot of moving pieces as well. They traded some guys off last year. We know Duffy's got some electric stuff, but where do you go? Because this legit could be a bullpen that you can get some late targets on.
Yeah, I thought Taylor Rogers would go a lot later. He was somebody before drafts even started that I really, really kind of liked. And I don't actually have him on the grid right now, but everyone drafted now is pretty smart, so he's not really falling as far as I would have expected him to. But in terms of late round guys, I really like Jorge Alcala. He really closed out the year strong last year between August and October. 18 2/3 innings, 0.96 ERA, 0.64 WHIP, 24-3 K to walk. So I mean that's really elite. So around 39 ADP, he's definitely somebody that I would kind of prioritize on the higher end of guys I'd be looking to target. Duffy's in his final year of arbitration, so maybe they give him some chances, and similar to some other guys we've talked about, they try to trade him after some time in the role, try to build up his trade value. So I don't know. I just think Alcala, Taylor Rogers are 2 guys I really like and could provide a lot of saves.
Yeah, I've started to slowly see that Alcala name, so let's hope he stays later in drafts. I'd be a big fan of that. Maybe I'll also have to be a little more aggressive on him when in these leagues where I need saves, because I could see that happening in Minnesota. Duffy, I could see easily getting traded in that scenario, so that could be a fun one too. The New York Mets, Edwin Diaz, he still gets the job done. People like to clown on him from time to time, but he's good. But the secondary options here, even if they don't get saves, can really help a fantasy team. So what are we looking at in New York?
I'm really just looking at Trevor May. Seth Lugo used to be one I would target quite frequently in prior seasons. I think May's just established himself as the next man up. 7 wins and 4 saves last year, career high 68 appearances. He always has a really strong K- walk percentage. His 15.8 swinging strike percentage was among the, near the top of the leaderboard there too. So, I think it's just May for me, around 41 ADP. And then everyone else, I'm just not really interested in.
All right, let's go to the Bronx, the New York Yankees. Chapman, he's still the man. He didn't have his elite year, but still a very, very good year last year. Like you said, if you can start out with Chapman at his price tag, that's still pretty darn good. But there, he doesn't get every opportunity. They kind of take care of him to make sure he's there for the postseason. So who else are you looking at in this bullpen?
Yeah, it's Lois Siga and Chad Green. Both guys really stepped up huge last year for the Yankees. They were big reasons. They made the playoffs just because, at the point they were making their run, Chapman was really struggling really bad. He went on the IL, and those guys had to step up. So both of their ADPs are a little bit before round 30. Lois Siga's in round 24, Green round 28 right now. I do like Green as kind of, you want to get innings right. 80 some innings last year. A lot of strikeouts, low whip. I think 10 wins, 6 saves or something like that. So he's definitely one of their highest leverage relievers. Definitely somebody I'd be targeting in that range for sure.
Yeah, I'm a big Lois Siga fan, so I'm with this Yankees bullpen because lots of wins come from these guys as well. So big fan of that. Oakland Athletics, revolving door. You mentioned Chafin, and I think he's a free agent this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of moving
Chafin,
pieces.
Romo, Diekman, all gone.
Gone. So
really
barren bullpen. So what are we doing here?
Yeah, Trevino. I think he could be a great value for saves for the first few months. He's arbitration eligible for the first time. I could see Oakland selling off. I mean, if they're already talking about trading Matt Olson and some of their higher end players, I could see Trevino being part of that. So I don't know. They have a new manager coming in, so we don't know who that is yet. Melvin only used 5 pitchers for saves last year. It really depends on who they sign. I really obviously expect them to be kind of on the cheaper end of the free agent market, but maybe someone like Boxberger out of a veteran that can kind of step into the role to kind of complement Trevino. But he had kind of a weird season too. Like he like really struggled for a while. I think 5 innings or something like that. He gave up like 13 earned runs, and then over the rest of the season didn't even give up that many. So it'll be interesting to see like who starts the year as the closer. Trevino's ADP is reasonable. It's around 22. So like I said, I wouldn't expect a full year of saves from him. And again, it really depends on who they sign, but he could be a good value for, 15 saves. So
yeah, it's gonna be a tough one because there's gonna be some random Oakland guy that shows up and just that does it because it's what they do. It's just what the A's do, and I don't know if I'm willing to take gambles on who that one's gonna be. So
I'm not. Yeah.
Let's go to Philadelphia. I've always been a Jose Alvarado fan. Last year things didn't go 100% as planned, but he still was kind of effective at times. We got some openings in this bullpen. So how are you looking in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I'm with you on Alvarado. Around 38 ADP, if you can tolerate a high whip, you'll get the handful of wins and saves. Last year, he had his career best velocity, 99.4 miles per hour. So just also came with a career worst 18.5% walk rate. So, I don't know. Philadelphia, they're likely to sign a closer or trade for one. So, I don't know. Alvarado could fall into some saves, but I think the more likely scenario is, they go after someone like Kimbrel or one of the.
Just about to say this feels like the Kimbrel landing spot if there ever was one. So,
they tried to trade for him, I guess, before the White Sox did.
Would have been much better than Joe Kelly.
Yeah,
or not Joe Kelly. If I like to say that. Ian Kennedy.
Oh yeah,
much better than Ian Kennedy.
Both of them, yeah.
Yeah, either one. It would have been better than either one of them for sure.
Yeah. Exactly.
Let's go to Pittsburgh, where Chris Stratton had his moments, Bednar had his moments, Rich Rodriguez out of town now. Where are we looking at in Pittsburgh? Because if one of these guys pitches well, they could be gone too.
Yeah, this one's an interesting one because Derek Shelton used only 3 pitchers for saves last year. It was Rodriguez and then Stratton and Bednar. Bednar, clearly their highest leverage reliever, 32.5% strikeout rate. His K- walk was among the leaders, among qualified relievers. Swinging strike percentage was among the leaders. He just had like a ridiculous run from July through October, 30 and 2/3 innings, 0.88 ERA, 0.82 WHIP, 39 strikeouts, 8 walks. So I do think he's going to get a good share of the save opportunities, but I think he's more of that high leverage role, 8th inning, 7th inning, let's get out of a jam type guy. They don't want to, raise his cost too high yet. But I definitely think he's kind of in the mix for the lower end of double-digit saves, whereas Stratton probably more likely to kind of open the year in the role. He was pretty effective in it. He was a converted starter. He was among the league
Former
leaders in innings pitched among relievers last year, being the converted starter. But he's second-year arbitration eligible in 2022. One more year of arbitration before he becomes a free agent. So he's another one of those possible trade candidates to monitor. But if he does get traded, that means more opportunities for David Bednar.
Yeah, Bednar is the guy that I thought he was going to run with it last year, and he kind of did. Got banged up a little. Stratton slid in and worked out, obviously. But
and of course, Pittsburgh's second worst save total with only 25. So
yeah, I don't see that thing to remember. I don't see that changing much this year either. Like they don't seem to be making the right moves to improve on that situation. San Diego Padres, a team with quite the conundrum, but Melancon out of the way this for now. We didn't expect that last year either. But there's so many options in this bullpen. Where do you kind of want to take some chances?
Well, so there's not. I thought the same, but there's not as many options as I thought. Melancon declined his half of the mutual option, so he's a free agent. Daniel Hudson's a free agent. Keone Kela, free agent. Pomeranz tore his flexor tendon last August, so he is not likely to enter the mix. Emilio Pagan gives up too many homers, so I don't know if he's fit for the role, even though he previously closed for the Rays a few years ago. So really, this is kind of an interesting bullpen to target right now in early drafts because they haven't made any free agent moves. If they don't, really like Pierce Johnson, he's basically free, around 49 ADP. Good K rate, 3.22 ERA, 58 and 2/3 innings, 77 Ks. So another guy would be a lefty, Tim Hill. He's not as flashy in the strikeout percentage as Johnson is, but he pitched a career high 59 and 2/3 last year. So those are the two arms I'm monitoring now. Both are free. Both could be extremely good values depending on what happens over the next couple months.
Yeah, I'm imagining they're going to bring someone in. It'll be interesting to see what they actually end up doing in San Diego. Let's go to Seattle, where there's always moving pieces. There's people that are becoming off the IL in the coming season. There's so many things going on, but they finished the year with Streckenrider doing well. We know Paul Sewald's deal. Castillo's there, which was an interesting trade. Lots and lots of pieces in Seattle. So how do you break this one down?
Yeah, Scott Servais stayed true to his committee all year. Can you name the 8 relievers that got saved for them?
Well, that was 3 of them. You have Graveman, of course, got 4, and then after that, no.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know Keenan Middleton got a few.
Yeah,
I don't remember the other ones either. So that's kind of why I posed that question.
And then they get Ken Giles back this year, right?
Right. So that's who I was going to mention. I expect the committee to grow even more this year with Giles returning and Andres Munoz returning, another 100-mile-per-hour flashy upside. So Sewald Steckenrider kind of go in the mid-20s right now in DCs. I might avoid that price. There's still a lot of great hitters in that range and great starters that I would just rather have. And I didn't even follow my own advice in the 50 because I grabbed Sewald. But Giles was an elite reliever for years before he got hurt. So I imagine him, he'll definitely be part of the mix with Sewald, Steckenrider, Castillo.
Yeah, and then Munoz, like you mentioned him too. My goodness, I got him from San Diego in the Ty France deal, and Well, Ty France came with him, I should say. And Munoz lights out stuff in that arm. Like he could be a future closer as well if he can stay healthy. Like my goodness, that could be quite the group they have out of that bullpen. Really scary stuff if they actually get it going in the right direction.
Yep.
San Francisco Giants, Camille, Duvall was amazing to finish the year. I'm still, as a Giants fan, thinking it's still going to be kind of a committee with Jake McGee. I'm not going to completely throw that one out the window with the way Kapler does things, but we'll see. He kind of threw it out the window towards the end of the season, but I'm still a believer in that. How are you looking at this bullpen?
I'm drafting Duvall.
Yeah. he's a beast.
He's so good. I mean, he really struggled when he got first called up. Gave up 4 home runs in like 10 innings, but made some adjustments in the minors, came back in September, went 4-0, 3 saves, 14 and a third scoreless innings. He was their closer in the playoffs with everyone healthy. So I just think, I don't know. You might be right with McGee, and Rodgers both returning for 2022. McGee was fantastic last year. He really he went like 2 months without allowing an earned run. But just remember, with McGee, he means like a one-pitch pitcher. He throws fastball.
It's terrifying. Trust me, terrifying to watch.
He really had a sharp decline in his strikeout rate last year compared to 2020, but doesn't really walk many guys. His experience in the role, I think, he'll kind of supplement Duvall. But one thing with San Francisco, obviously, they're going to win a lot of games, so there's more save opportunities to be had. So even if Duvall shares a role with McGee at some point, he could still finish with 30 saves. So,
yeah. And let me clarify. Duvall is the guy. I think it's like a 70-30, 75-25 thing. Like it's not a 50-50 by any means. So it's probably more in line with what most of baseball does now. It's probably more in line with what the Dodgers will do with Kenley Jansen. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, by no means, like I still think Duvall is by far the guy. I've heard some people go, oh no, like he's going to get 100%. I'm like, no, not with this situation. Trust me, not the way they run things in that place. So, won't be perfect, but it'll be pretty awesome. I'm with you.
Yep.
St. Louis, Giovanni Gallegos. This was a fun discussion with Paul Sporer at FPAS, and it's been kind of an ongoing discussion in different conversations. The stuff is ridiculous, as you mentioned early on, but it's St. Louis. What are we going to do there? So how are you approaching this bullpen?
Yeah, I want to get a share of Gallegos early on. I just think, he's been so good for so long. Just whip, like 0.08 whip for several years, 3 ERA. He's been a high leverage reliever for years. And, he had like 14 saves or something over the last like month and change or something crazy. When they went on that crazy winning streak. Gallegos was a man. So Alex Reyes and potentially Jordan Hicks moving to the starting rotation. So it doesn't leave many people left if they stay true to that. Genesis Cabrera, he was among the league leaders with 28 holds. He's basically free around 49 ADP. But I don't know. I think this is Gallegos' show unless they sign someone like Melanson or a veteran. And I think Gallegos, in terms of volume, when you compare to guys like Chapman, who hasn't gone over 60 innings in like 5-6 years, versus Gallegos, who's been in the 75-80 range for several years now. That's significant volume that you want to kind of add to your more opportunities too.
It's a good point. Very, very good point. And every time I talk to somebody about Gallegos, it makes me open my eyes more and more to what I was not paying attention to apparently. So he's very, very good.
I know Sporer took him really early in your draft in FPAS. In the draft champions, he went his highest pick, at least the 4 that have been completed thus far. Highest pick 55, which is round 4. His ADP is 84, which is more like round 6. But I could see him moving up. I know some people are just not on him at that price at all, but I could see him definitely paying that off just because he's just proven that he's been an elite reliever for years. So.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you because the more I've looked at him, I'm like, wow, he's actually is outstanding. He's very, very good. I don't see that changing anytime soon. So I'm with you on that one for sure. Let's go to Tampa Bay, where if you ever want to take chances on late round closers, this is probably one of the handful of destinations because it's always a revolving door. So who are you looking at in Tampa Bay?
Really, for me, it's Andrew Kitridge. I mean, his price is a little. I don't know. I'm kind of undecided right now because in the early ECs he's coming in around round 22. He definitely was their highest leverage reliever last season. He had 9 wins, 8 saves, 7 holds, great ratios, all under 2 ERA. Because they're just so extreme with their 9th inning usage, I'm not sure I'll go in there at that price. I mean, if he falls to like round 28, 30, I'd probably be in on it. But there's just so many options in this bullpen. Between rounds, I think Fairbanks went in like round 45 or something in my recent 50. So, I mean, you can have all these guys, late, but it's just so hard to trust. I mean, I just am not gonna. I think they used 14 relievers last year for saves, so I'm just not going to trust anyone. I mean, there were guys, they were calling guys up from the minors, and then I think Dietrich Enns got saves, and people I've never even heard of before coming in and getting saves, and just how can you target anyone?
You could draft these guys late, and you won't even have them in your roster because all of a sudden they get 2 saves this week. You start them next week, they don't get to see a save for 2 months. It's the weirdest rotation that they go through in that thing. It's very, very annoying. But
and it was strange too because Diego Castillo, he 30% K rate for a couple years. It was just odd that they just moved on from him. I don't know. It was a weird trade. Chargois,
I like Diego.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was a clubhouse thing or what, but
yeah, I was very surprised to see that move as well. I'm with you on that one. Texas Rangers. Joe Barlow made a lot of people happy last year. Do you go back to him this year? You go to some other options? What do you like in Texas?
I'm not in on Barlow. Round 15 ADP, 222 is his ADP in the early drafts. He really surprised. I'll give him credit. He really surprised me. 29 innings pitched, 155 ERA, 083 WHIP, 11 saves. But he outperformed his estimators by nearly 2 points. Walks are a major concern for him. He walked nearly 6 per 9 in the minors. Now he did improve that when he got called up, only 3.7 walks per 9. But he's just one where, especially if the Rangers spend some money, I don't know. I'm not in at round 15, and I'm avoiding. And at some point, Jose Leclerc, Jonathan Hernandez will be back.
True.
Probably not early in the season, but eventually those guys will be back, and those guys are a little bit more established from experience-wise. So. I don't know. I could just see Barlow struggling in the role. He's obviously the favorite to open 22 in the role. I just won't be drafting him.
All right, let's talk Toronto Blue Jays. Jordan Romano was outstanding this past season. You just going to roll with Romano, or are there some other options in Toronto that stand out to you?
Yeah, he's the one. He's the one kind of safe guy, quotation marks, that I'm avoiding among the top closers. I tweeted a few weeks ago that I could see Toronto returning him to a more flexible, high leverage role than committing to him as their closer. So I don't know. It's his final year before he's arbitration eligible. That alone. Obviously the Jays just spent a ton of money on Barrios today, so historically that front office. Hasn't really spent. So I don't know. I just see Romano as, fantastic bullpen arm. I just don't know if he's their for sure closer. And I could see them addressing the bullpen in the free agency because the bullpen woes in Toronto were a big reason they didn't make the playoffs. True. It was Romano and nobody else. Now they did make a lot of moves to address the pen. They acquired Adam Simber. Who else? Brad Hand. They acquired, didn't work out. I don't know. And there's still the threat of Julian Merriweather, who has started the year as a closer, reaches triple digits, just couldn't stay healthy. So he's going around 35 ADP-ish. Merriweather is. So he's someone that's kind of a late target that I'll be looking at just in case Romano isn't the guy.
Yeah, Merriweather was one of those early, let's spend all our fab dollars on, and then he got hurt. So he's definitely got the goods, like you said, throwing triple digits up there, which is great in that closer's role. So I could see that happen as well. And I kind of agree. I like Romano a ton, but he seems like he could be fit for a high leverage role as well. So, like,
a little bit of health
innings.
concerns too. Like he had a minimum IL stint last year, but before that, I think he was, a couple injury concerns. But I'm sure they would like to keep him healthy as long as they can, just because he's just so good.
We got to remember Toronto's manager is a former Tampa Bay coach, so we know how they like to handle things. So
right, exactly.
Definitely in play as well. Last but not least, the Washington Nationals, their bullpen got a full makeover last year and had tons of struggles. So, we liked Finnegan. He stumbled to the finish line. Many options here in Washington.
Yeah, the only two guys I'm really looking at in DCs is Tanner Rainey and Kyle Finnegan. Rainey has a round 25 ADP, Finnegan round 28 from the early DCs. I'm really not sure who they're going to go with. I mean, Finnegan was successful in the role for a little bit. Then Rainey came on strong late in the year after he was just awful. He was awful all year. And then spent some time in the minors, dealt with an injury, and then really upon his return just kind of was a completely different pitcher. So if I had to choose one right now, I would pick Rainey. But I don't know. It's very unsettled right now. I'm not really per se targeting these guys. But someone will get saves.
Yeah.
So could be both of them.
Hopefully it's a lot because I want Juan Soto to win a Triple Crown eventually, but we'll see how that goes. Rainey was the guy that a lot of us liked going into last season, or at least was higher up on the list going into last season, and just weirdness took place, and Finnegan kind of came in there, but then Finnegan got hurt. So I'd imagine one of the two has a good run for sure. If not, hold on to it. I'm with you. With you on that. But that'll wrap up all 30 teams. Ryan, any other thoughts on the closing situations going into 2022, things you're focusing on, maybe something else to look at for your DCs?
No, I think we covered everything. I just looking at like contract status is something, just to kind of take a look at, like just identify guys like even Edwin Diaz is in the last year of his contract and with New York, and what if they suck? He could move on. Obviously, you'd probably close somewhere wherever he goes, but it's just something I pay attention to, just because forecasting saves right now is just so hard. It's so early. There's so many free agent signings that are going to happen over the next few months. So, I mean, the 80th percentile for draft champions is 67 saves. I mean, do you have to get that many to do well? No. Steve Weimer, I think, finished with 40-some and finished second overall in the DC format last year. So, so for me, I'm prioritizing, one good guy for sure. And, if I can get a guy like, Will Smith or Duvall, even, he kind of emerges, then I'm set. But, you can always fill in late rounds for saves, even if it's not, a high number of saves. There's definitely options there, just because so many more pitchers are getting saves these days.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I like the idea of go get two studs early if you want to get aggressive and just lock them in, or there's tons of options, as you mentioned, that you could backfill if you need to. I think most importantly, I've been on this mantra the last couple of years, at least get one of the like top 8 to 10 guys. At least get one guy is going to be in a role, and then build from there, because that'll lock you in hopefully like 30-ish saves, give or take, and you can kind of make it work from there.
It's tough timing the runs though, because once the run hits, like as soon as Hendricks and Hader go, then it's like, okay, so once the Chapman, Jansen, Will Smith, Romano range is there, like once one goes, they're all just going, because people know like you need saves. I'm going to go get them now. And if you miss that run, then you're stuck with the Barlows and the Bednars and, perhaps the later round guys. So you really kind of have to hit later on then if you miss out on one of those elite guys. So,
and that's what happened to me in the FPAS draft, is like every time I go, okay, I'll get this guy coming around, and then boom, like 3 more guys went. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? And I'm like, well, I'm not going to pay for this guy in this round. And then next thing you know, he's gone. So it's a wild world out there, folks. So get ready to change your philosophy on some of these players if you want to be, think you're going to feel good leaving your draft. Otherwise, you're going to be playing the game a lot later in rounds, which is fine too, which you can do. But Ryan will wrap it up right there. Once again, remind everybody about all the great stuff at RotoWire before we head on out of here.
Yep, RotoWire closer grid. Working on a lot of outlooks right now. It's rotowire.com/baseball/closers, where you can find our new closer grid. A lot of new features to look at. All the teams are on there. You can click the team right on the page, see their depth chart, see their usage over the last 7 days, see their stats. So really excited about those, and definitely once the fantasy baseball magazine and draft kit comes out, be on the lookout for that as well. There's a lot of hard work going into that, a lot of different contributors. So it's definitely, I'll give it to all the Baseball HQ guys who are working on the forecaster right now, and everyone who does projections, player outlooks. I mean, it's a lot of work. So kudos to everyone who's putting in that work and helping us guys, prepare for drafts.
Yep, it is a ton of work. It's a
labor of love. We love it.
It's a labor of love. So enjoy it. But as always, Ryan, I appreciate chatting with you, and look forward to doing it again sometime. Keep up the awesome work over at RotoWire.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody, this is Bench with Bubba, episode 415, Late Round Relievers with Ryan Rufe of RotoWire. Catch y'all later.